Welcome to this walkthrough guide on how to use confidential mode in Gmail. Here's something that might surprise you. You've probably sent hundreds, maybe thousands of emails through Gmail. But have you ever needed to send one that self-destructs? One that the recipient literally cannot forward, cannot copy, cannot print, and cannot download. One where you can revoke access at any time, even after they've read it. Most people don't know that this feature exists, and honestly, I don't blame them. Google hasn't exactly shouted about it from the rooftops. But Gmail's confidential mode has been sitting right there in your Compose window since 2018, and it's one of the most underrated features in the entire Gmail ecosystem. So today I'm going to walk you through everything, and just as importantly, the limitations that you need to know about. Because this feature is powerful, but it's not magic, and I want to make sure that you know exactly what it does and what it doesn't do. So let's get into it. Before we start clicking buttons, let's quickly understand what we're actually working with here. Gmail's confidential mode is a built-in security feature available to every Gmail user, whether you're on a free personal account or a paid Google Workspace plan. It's been available since 2018 and has been enabled by default since mid-2019. At its core, it gives you, the sender, ongoing control over an email after you've sent it. And that's a pretty radical concept when you think about it, because normally once you hit send, that email belongs to the recipient. They can do whatever they want with it, but confidential mode changes that power dynamic. So here's what it actually does. You set an expiration date, anywhere from 1 day to 5 years, after which the email content locks itself away, even though the email still sits in their inbox. It disables forwarding, copying, printing, and attachment downloads, blocking the casual one-click sharing that causes most data leaks. You can optionally add SMS passcode verification so that the recipient needs both their email and their phone to read it, and you can revoke access at any time from your sent folder, hours, days, or even weeks after sending, making it the ultimate unsend button that actually works after they've already read the email. Alright, let's now get hands-on. I'm going to walk you through sending your first confidential email from scratch. Open up Gmail and click Compose to start a new email, just like you normally would. Fill in the recipient's email address, add in your subject line, and then type out your message body. Nothing different so far. This is just a regular email at this point. But here's where it gets interesting. Look at the bottom of the Compose window. The toolbar where you've got your formatting options, the attachment paperclip, and so on. You'll see an icon that looks like a small padlock with a clock on it. That is the confidential mode toggle. Go ahead and click it. A dialog box will pop up with 2 settings. The first is your expiration date. You've got 5 options here: 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 3 months, or 5 years. Think about what makes sense for your situation. Are you sending a temporary password? Well, maybe 1 day is plenty. Sharing a contract for a review? Maybe a month. Sending something that needs to be accessible for a while but shouldn't live forever? Well, that's where 3 months or 5 years comes in. I'd recommend starting with 1 week as a sensible default for most situations. The second setting is the passcode option, and you've got 2 choices here. The first is no SMS passcode. This means that Gmail recipients can open it normally after signing into their Google account, and non-Gmail recipients will get a link that doesn't require a passcode. It's basically the lighter security option. The second is SMS passcode, and this is obviously the stronger option. When you select this, you'll need to enter in the recipient's phone number when sending their email. Gmail will send them a text message with a one-time passcode that they have to enter before the email content becomes visible. For now, let's go with the SMS passcode so we can see the full experience. So I select SMS passcode, hit save, and then you'll notice that the Compose window now has a blue banner at the top, confirming that confidential mode is on, along with the expiration date that I've set. Add your attachments if you have any. Yes, attachments are covered by confidential mode too. And then we can hit that send button. Now, if you've chosen the SMS passcode option, Gmail is now going to ask you to enter the recipient's phone number. Please make sure that you enter their phone number and not yours. I know that sounds obvious, but it is a very common mistake, especially if you're sending to multiple recipients. Each recipient can have a different phone number for verification. Now, pretty much everything else about your email is normal, so we just then hit send. And that's it. We've now sent a confidential email. Now let's flip over to the other side and look at this from the recipient's perspective, because the experience can be quite different depending on whether they're a Gmail user or not. So let's start with Gmail to Gmail. If you send a confidential email to someone who also uses Gmail on the web, the email lands in their inbox looking fairly normal. They'll see your name, the subject line, and the preview snippet. But when they open it, they'll notice that a few things are different. First, if you turned on SMS passcode, they'll see a box asking them to verify identity before the email content loads. So they click the button, and a passcode will get sent to their phone. All they need to do is enter it, and then the email will be opened. The passcode is single use, and it expires after a short window, so they will need a new one each time they revisit the email. Once verified, they can view the full content of the email. And there's a banner right at the bottom of the email that tells them that this email is confidential, and that they won't have the option to forward, copy, print, or download this email. That's a clear heads up to the recipient. Second, the forward button is now gone. It's not just grayed out, it's completely not there. Same with the download button for any attachments. And third, if you set an expiration date, they'll see the note telling them when the email expires. Now, let's look at what happens when you send a confidential email to someone who uses Outlook or Apple Mail or any other non-Gmail email client. Because this is where things work a bit differently. The recipient gets an email from you, but instead of seeing the actual content, they'll see a notification that says something like, Paul O'Malley has sent you an email via Gmail confidential mode. There's a button that says View the email. They click that and it opens the email in a browser window, essentially a secure web view that's hosted by Google. If you set an SMS passcode, they'll need to request the code and enter it here before the content will load. Now, if you didn't set a passcode, they may still need to verify via their email address instead. Now, this browser-based view has all of the same restrictions, so no forwarding, no copying, no printing, and no downloading. But it's worth noting that this experience is a little clunkier for non-Gmail recipients. They have to click through to a browser, potentially enter a code, and they can't just read it inline in their preferred email client. So, if you're sending to a lot of non-Gmail users, just be aware that it adds a small friction point. Now, this next piece is one of my favorite features, and I think it's genuinely underappreciated. We've all had that moment where you hit send and then immediately realize that you sent it to the wrong person, or you included the wrong attachment, or you simply changed your mind. Gmail's regular undo send gives you anywhere between 5 to 30-second windows to be able to pull that email back. But confidential mode, well, you can revoke access hours, days, or even weeks later. So here's how it works. Go to your sent folder and find the confidential email that you've just sent. Open it up and you'll see a button that says Remove Access. You click it and that's it. The recipient can now no longer see the email content. If they try to open it, they'll just simply see a message saying that the sender has removed access. The shell of the email itself will stay in their inbox, so they can see who sent it and the subject line, but the body and the attachments are locked. And here's the thing that makes this really powerful. You can actually restore access just as easily. If you revoked access by mistake, go back to the same email in your sent folder and you'll see the option to re-enable it. So it's not permanent. You do have full ongoing control of this email. So say you're sending login credentials to a new team member. You send them a confidential email with a 1-day expiry and an SMS passcode. They use the credentials to log in and set their own password. And the next day, the email expires and the credentials are no longer accessible in their inbox. But even before that, you could completely revoke access the moment they confirm that they've logged in. This leaves you with zero residual risk. This is also incredibly useful if you ever suspect a recipient's email account has been compromised. You can immediately revoke access to any confidential emails that you've sent them, cutting off potential exposure. Alright, so you now know how it works, but when should you actually use it? Well, honestly, the sweet spot is anything that's both sensitive and temporary. Think sharing login credentials or Wi-Fi passwords that someone only really needs once, or sending financial details like tax file numbers or bank accounts that shouldn't live in an inbox forever. Forwarding draft contracts or pricing proposals that you don't want shared around. Distributing sensitive meeting recaps about personnel or restructures that need a limited audience. Or passing along temporary access code for events or buildings. You'll notice that the common thread here is information that tends to have a natural shelf life. If you've ever thought to yourself, I wish this email would just disappear after they've read it, well, that's probably your cue to flip on confidential mode. Alright, now I've been singing this feature's praises all video long, and it genuinely is useful, but I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't clearly explain what it doesn't do. Because there are some real limitations here, and understanding them is the difference between using this feature effectively and having a false sense of security. The biggest thing to understand is that confidential mode is not encryption. Google can still potentially access the content, and it uses the same TLS as any regular Gmail. And it won't satisfy compliance requirements like GDPR or HIPAA on its own. For that, you need something like a dedicated tool like Virtru, ProtonMail, or S-MIME. It also can't stop screenshots. It doesn't protect the subject line, and it doesn't work for scheduled sending. So don't put your password in the subject line, and don't assume a determined bad actor can't just photograph the screen. That said, think of it as protection against the 90%, the casual, accidental one-click sharing that causes most real-world leaks. It handles that, let me just forward this to Dave problem really brilliantly. For genuinely adversarial situations or strict regulatory requirements, you will need stronger tools. Confidential mode is just simply one tool in your toolbox. It's not the whole toolbox itself. And that's Gmail confidential mode, one of the most underrated features hiding in plain sight. It's not encryption, and it won't stop someone taking a screenshot, but for the vast majority of situations where you're sharing sensitive or temporary information over email, it is a genuinely powerful tool that's built right into Gmail and costs you absolutely nothing. My challenge to you, next time you're about to send something sensitive, a password, a financial document, or a confidential business discussion, take those extra 2 seconds to click that little lock icon. Your future self will thank you. Now, if you found this video helpful, you know what to do. It helps the channel more than you'd think. Drop a comment below and tell me, have you been using confidential mode already, or is this something that is completely new to you? I'd love to hear how you're planning to use it, and I'll catch you in my next video. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, be sure to check out the channel, and if you like what you see, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.